Thank you for the opportunity and welcome students and welcome youth who are here joining us on this, at least on this side of the mountains, rainy Saturday. And also happy Diwali to folks who celebrate today. So currently I lead the policy and advocacy and communications work at Gates Foundation. So what that means is I get to, as Chris alluded to, I get to rewrite inequitable laws. So the policies that did not serve my family, did not serve me as a student and a youth, trying to overcome intergenerational poverty. I am able to, with your help, with students' help, with student voice and engagement, be pushing on decision makers in the state to be able to make better policies. My journey here was a little convoluted, but it's not atypical. So just nationally, usually in the United States, most adults have between 3 to 5 job titles or career changes in the course of their life. So I'm on career number 3. So I guess I get one more and then I'm out. But as Chris also mentioned, I was very interested in science and I still am very interested in science. And I did my cell and molecular biology work at University of Washington. I just loved research. I loved problem solving. I still do. And cell and molecular biology, I was doing oncology work. I was doing immunology and then gene editing. And for all of those things, they are systems problems. You take the genome, that is a system. Your entire body is a system. Similarly, during that time, I was also interested in some of the social systems that I was encountering. The lack of resources for immigrant scientists, the lack of research funding, the lack of access to women in STEM, the inequity in professorships and tenure within four-year schools. Those were systems issues that my brain also wanted to solve. Even though it sounds like I have changed careers, in my journey, I do not find it to be that way, because you're not going to higher education just to get content, right? You can use ChatGPT to produce content for you now. You're going there to learn how to think and to learn how to be critical problem solvers and to learn how to think of systems. You need to be able to access 5 to 10 different resources and try to make sense of all of those different pieces of information. And that is what a 4-year degree, or that is what a 2-year degree or a certificate does for you. So I think all of my scientific training was very helpful. It still comes, it is still useful even now when I have to work in so many different places, because it helps me understand various complicated systems. And anytime there are some, right now we're living in a world where there are so many complicated issues that are going on nationally, internationally, and even statewide. Every time I feel like, how will we ever move forward across this? I'm able to think about scientific advances and how even 10 years ago, we had no such thing as an mRNA vaccine. And I worked on mRNA in my dissertation in 2016. And just 4 years later, the entire world changed. And we were able to get 2 billion people vaccinated with a technology that did not exist because people were thinking in a systems way. So even with social systems, yes, sometimes it feels like it could be overwhelming, but it gives me the confidence and the optimism that we will find ways we're really great humans. When we come together, we can find systemic solutions.
Thank you. I understand the Foundation's Washington State team, walking alongside the leadership of Angela Jones, has made a significant commitment to the audience before you today and the aspiring students that will follow. Can you share with us at a high level the Foundation's priorities and commitment to the state's educational attainment goals? What does that mean in student speak?
Sure, of course. We are trying to focus on helping students go from high school to post-secondary, whatever post-secondary pathway you choose to go. I know that there is some talk about not post-secondary is not for everyone, and I believe in that. Maybe it is not for everyone, but we do believe that you need to get that choice. So if you choose not to go, that's up to you. But we need to create all of the pathways possible, really well-lit pathways that can help you go to and through, and also completion. So the ways that we're focusing on that is how can we get you dual credit access while you're still in high school so that you can save some money in college and you can also get a taste for, do I like this class? Do I not like this class? Right. And I had to do a lot of that after I went into 4 year. And imagine if you could do that just in high school itself. You could try out a couple of things and then see what really excites you. So dual credit is one. Financial aid. Do you know how to apply for financial aid? How easy is it for you? For me, as a first generation student, my family had no idea how to apply for it, nor did I. I showed up on campus and I didn't even know what financial aid was. Also, I had to overcome this feeling of, am I asking for too much? Am I worth it? Right? I thought I was asking for handouts and it didn't feel good. So all of those things, if that is just my story, but we've also heard it resonate from other students who maybe feel like perhaps they're not supposed to be asking for this, or maybe they don't even know how to. So financial aid resources was one, is another one, dual credit financial aid, and then college and career advising. Is there an adult in your school? Is there a teacher? Is there a counselor? But also on the other side, in your 2 year program or your 4 year program, are there people who can help you navigate? Because there's so many different classes that you can take. Also, if you want a particular career, who's telling you which classes you need to take so that you can get there? If you need to navigate internships and resources like that. So we're focusing on those three things: financial aid, dual credit, and college and career advising to help youth, specifically youth who are underserved. I don't say underrepresented, I say underserved, because it's no surprise that at the end of a 4 year or a PhD degree, there are fewer people who look like me. It's not because I somehow made myself underrepresented. Communities like ours are underserved, and hence we don't show up at the end. So we're making sure that the resources are there and we're served. And that's our goal over the next 4 years.
That's fantastic. Thank you. I think I'll ask another question and then maybe open the floor to anybody. We've got some good activity in the chat
I see.
as well. Yeah. So what would you like to leave the audience, the early birds that showed up here straight on right on the dot, leave this audience with as they learn more about civic engagement today, their place in it, and your wishes for them?
Sure. I would say that your stories are really, really important. You might have heard it sometimes and you're wondering, is it really important? Do people really pay attention to it? Is there impact? And I can say honestly, yes, there is. Again, going a little bit back to my bio, I did lead 50 state advocacy across the nation. And also I worked in California, and then I worked in the Washington state legislature. And decision makers do really value student voice. The cool thing is with WA-SEN, you get to experiment, right? They're providing the safe space for you. And this is where you can find your voice and then try to see if using your voice is something that is empowering to you. It might be. For me, it was very empowering. When I first started college, I was very self-conscious about my accent as an immigrant. I was very self-conscious about being queer. And that confidence came through student advocacy and community leadership. And that is why I feel so strongly and I'm inspired that there's so many of you who are participating in this program right now. But honestly, legislators do lean in when they hear from students directly. And WA-SEN is a really great place for you to experiment, to see it's a safe space. Um, and that is on the statewide level. But once you build your chops there, you might then realize that there is an issue that is closer to your heart, that is closer to your community. And maybe you can go to your city and you can advocate for resources there because a member in your community or some folks and your faith-based place of worship, they need resources. So you will learn how to do that for your community. And that happened for me too. I was able to, in graduate school, advocate the leadership to be able to create a scholarship for women and immigrants who are non-US citizens who could get STEM um, research funding because there was no government funding for us. So that was a skill that I learned from student advocacy, and then I was able to implement it within my particular community. But also smaller, just you can learn how to advocate for yourself and also for your family, maybe. So a couple of years ago, my mom, who's an immigrant, limited English language, I helped her advocate for herself when she had a nervous breakdown, and her doctors were not treating her in the way that was needed. So I needed to learn the medical system. And again, the resources from student advocacy and student training helped me advocate for my mother and actually saved her life because I knew how to do this work. But also now I can advocate for myself. You will need these resources too, because you're going to go into a job, you're going to go into a career. There's going to be some time when some supervisors like, well, I'm not sure if you deserve a raise yet. And that is when you will look back on your training here and figure out how to advocate for yourself so that you can get the wages that you deserve, so that you can support your family, so you can follow your dreams. So there's lots of spaces where this training will help you. Right now, you're helping us advocate to the state level, but it can come back to community, it can come back to family, and then lastly, even to you, individual advocacy.
Fantastic. We do have a couple questions, so I'm going to squeeze some in, Bish.
Sure.
From Miguel Blancas. Hi, Miguel. He's a student, Yakima student, transferred to Gonzaga University. He's a lovely friend of ours. He says, "How do you find the courage to continue when you struggle to find safe space to grow?"
Um, that is a very that can be a tough spot to be in. I found some of my community online initially because, especially if you live in different parts of the state, that you may not find people who are your tribe. So as LGBTQ folks, we often use the term chosen family. So you do have to find your chosen family. It could just be some folks who you meet on online somewhere. Maybe you don't meet them here. The other space that I found was also trying to apply to and go to student conferences. But WA-SEN could be one of those spaces, right? Where you bring people together and you find that like-minded person. And you only need maybe one or two of them initially, right? It doesn't have to be an entire tribe, but there is strength in numbers. So for me, I did have to intentionally find those communities. Another life hack that I use was I would go and volunteer in spaces that I was very passionate about because you're more likely to find people who think like you and who are also more wanting to invest in the community. And that really helped me find spaces.
That's great. We've got quite a few questions. We're not going to be able to get to them, but we're going to grab them and circle back with you on these, Bish. But
Sure. Yeah.
Katrina asked from Grace Harbor College, what types of change can we even ask for?
That's a very big question. I would say some of that would show up in conversations that you're having in your community. Also, you should ask yourself, what change are you passionate about? If there is food insecurity on your campus, like, is that what you want to address? If there is LGBTQ advocacy, is that what you want to be doing? If there's lack of resources for Native students, is that what you want to go for? And as far as I know, like usually whenever I find a need, I just go online and start researching and put in the institution name. And usually there's a club or a person who is already working on that. And then I just try to join. But if you see that there is nothing like that, then it could be a great chance for you to take on that leadership and create something like that. But more often than not, it's great to be part of something like WA-SEN, where you might not have someone on your campus, but they may know of something else that's happening somewhere else that they can connect you to. So those resources, I think you should really utilize the WA-SEN infrastructure.
Never too early to network, right, Bish?
Yes.
Never too early to network. I know the students here that we've worked with have heard me say that ad nauseum, but it's
Right.
never too early to network, because those are the folks that you might come back to, or be your next gig, right?
Right.
So, Bish,
And
thank
Chris,
you. Yes, please.
sorry, in the last 10 seconds, I do know that sometimes you may be putting on a space where you might think that actually I'm an international student. People don't actually listen to me or something like that. And I did have some of those lenses too. And I would say if you feel like you're in the minority, just join a adjacent group that has similar interests so that you could maybe you can just join forces together. So myself, for a little bit, I did not have documentation. And so at that time, I just found the Latino community and a bunch of the folks who are doing really great work there. So just join with other people who have maybe not exactly the same lived experience, but adjacent to yours. And you would be surprised in how much work you can get done together. And also just make sure that you support each other. That's the point of being from underserved communities. You can all, yes, there's lots of things that separate us, but also just find that one common thing. It could be that you really love cilantro on your food, or some people really hate salsa, or something else. I do not understand any of these people, but find that one common theme and come together on that.
That's fantastic. So you're talking about that mosaic, right? That we are a blend of that, and then also that taking care of one another, which I think segues really nicely into our next segment. Bish, thank you again so much
Of
for being
course.
with us. And I know that you have the ability to pop in and out throughout the day if you can.
Yeah.
And so please do. And thank you to Bish for the foundation's intentionality, particularly this year, in bringing student voice to the spaces where decisions are being made about them. Thank you. Round of applause for Bish.